And so, on that note, I want to then talk about our solution, or one of our solutions, which is our hydro shunter, a railway shunting locomotive um, that was originally built 67 years ago, that we've removed the diesel engine from and replaced with our hybrid hydrogen battery system in partnership with the Severn Valley Railway. So, for those of you that don't know, the Severn Valley Railway is the UK's largest heritage railway. It runs from Kidderminster in Worcestershire, just south of Birmingham, up to Bridgnorth in Shropshire to the west of Birmingham. So, it's a 16-mile route. It's a fantastic tourist attraction, but it's also a great test track with great engineering facilities for projects such as this. And we're hugely grateful to have a partner like the Severn Valley Railway involved. So the logic for Hydro Shunter was very clear. The Severn Valley Railway had a locomotive that was essentially waiting to be scrapped, unfortunately. The diesel engine had just been fixed, but had then gone pop quite simply, which meant that a lot of the key railway systems, such as the traction motors, the wheels, the drivetrain, was all absolutely serviceable, but with no diesel engine available, this shunter was essentially sat waiting to be used for parts. And we identified this as actually a fantastic opportunity where we could retrofit a new traction power system into this. In place of the diesel motor, we could put our battery, our fuel cell, our hydrogen storage, our control systems into this locomotive and demonstrate that the technology is ready and sufficiently mature to be deployed in service. And so I think it was about 5 years ago now, we had this conversation with the Severn Valley Railway where we put it to them, this could be a win-win for both of us. A spin out from the University of Birmingham with the country's leading heritage railway could create this very unique partnership with a shared objective of decarbonising the railway, both using the 67-year-old locomotive, but with brand new technology to show that everyone has a role, can have a role to play, that heritage railways actually can be hotbeds of innovation, and that startups can work with heritage railways, with volunteers on a railway such as this to deliver a fantastic innovation project. And that is what happened. So over the last 5 to 6 years, we've worked from this concept design through the development of the prototype, through the build. Last year, we had two events where we were able to showcase the locomotive at the Greatest Gathering, which was this huge railway event in Derby to celebrate 200 years of the railway in the UK, a historic moment. Hydro Shunter was taken there in order to essentially show off how the technology of 60 years ago, the locomotive of 60 years ago, actually built in Derby, could showcase the technology of right now, of the cutting edge of technology with this new hydrogen battery traction system. And it gained huge interest there. And then at the back end of last year, we took Shunter to a Five Hydrogen First event, where we actually showcased the opportunity for hydrogen to be moved by rail in bulk, as a pipeline, essentially, as an equivalent of a pipeline, which was another great opportunity to showcase not just our technology in a locomotive, but to showcase the opportunity for the railway, for rail freight, to have this fantastic new role to play in the growing net zero economy, which was a hugely important message to share. And that takes us now to this year, where we've introduced the technology. We've introduced Shunter to the market as of last Thursday, which has been a hugely exciting and successful and busy last few weeks. Let me emphasize that. And what we're now doing is essentially broadcasting to the market that we have the product ready to go. So if companies operating locomotives want to decarbonize those locomotives, if they want to essentially modernize and retraction them, they can come to us to have the design and build developed and deployed for them, to take out the diesel system, replace it with a clean zero emission traction system. So this is what the poor old shunter looked like to start off with 5 years ago. It was in a bit of a sorry state, as I said. It was, unfortunately, it had lots of working parts on it, but because the engine had gone pop, it wasn't going to be able to go anywhere. And it had sat for a number of years in Kidderminster, waiting for its chance to shine in some way. And hugely excitingly, it's gone to this, which is a photo from last year where we were testing the locomotive with its battery system, first of all, there with one of its counterparts, original counterparts with the diesel engine, keeping an eye on it. Um, and you can see the transformation. So we've gone from this poor broken locomotive now to a retraction of retrofitted locomotive. And this shows the opportunity. This is about how we can reuse existing assets and for lower capital cost replace the dirty polluting part, of course, with a clean modern traction system. And I wanted to also highlight this part of it. So we have seen in our projects a key issue for the railway is not just about the traction system for the railway, for the railway rolling stock, the train itself. It's actually about how do you deploy it onto the railway system as a whole, because the railway is a very complex system of systems. And while it's easy for us to say, oh, we've retrofitted a shunter locomotive, it now runs on hydrogen, we have to think about all the other problems that go with that, with the product approvals, with the safety cases, with the infrastructure management and deployment. And this is one example where we've been able to showcase another HEA member, as it happens, and their technological solution, which is a mobile hydrogen refueling system that enables us to refuel our shunter at the site. And you can see that there it is in its depot. We're able to bring the hydrogen on site, refuel it quickly and easily, and get on with it again. So another example of how we work to provide that systems approach, that holistic system of across mobility and energy, of understanding how can we deploy hydrogen technology onto railways. I'm also hugely proud of the fact that our joint project team of Vanguard and Severn Valley Railway were shortlisted. We're a finalist in the Rail Business Awards last week for the Innovation of the Year project, which is a hugely, obviously it's a huge source of pride for us, but it also validates the work, the ideas behind this, which is that this is a real solution, a real opportunity for the railway industry globally as a whole. This isn't just a boutique project in a depot just outside Birmingham. This is something of relevance to the sector as of now. And while we didn't win it this year, we were shortlisted in a small select group to be able to showcase what we've done and be recognised for that. So this is a picture of the shunter actually at the Five Hydrogen First event last year. I share simply on the basis that actually we've got a nice light on it for once, which makes a change from Kidderminster where it seems to be eternally grey and therefore not making it as photogenic as possible. But what I should talk about, and I'm conscious I want to get to questions and answers fairly soon, is around how we offer this product to market. And certainly one of the advantages of taking 5 years due to COVID and what have you of slowing down progress is it's allowed us to observe the developments in the market over this course of time. And what we've seen is obviously significant developments in terms of the fuel cells being offered to market, in terms of their technology, in terms of the space they take, in terms of the power output, in terms of the heat generation and management, and likewise in terms of the costs for the hardware has also shifted as well. So we now have a production design, a standardized production design, which has built on our experience from the testing and commissioning of our prototype locomotive that I've shown to you. And what the production design has is the latest iteration of the fuel cell available, which has shrunk in size, grown in power output. We've also improved on the component selection to go into the locomotive, so it's a much more efficient packaging. It's much better put together. There's more logic to it. We've understood how the locomotive works, how the build can work to ensure that that is done as quickly and reliably as possible, so that we have, when we are retrofitting locomotives, they're out of service for as short a time as possible to do the repowering. And what we're also looking at are the next steps of development, because this isn't a frozen in time technological solution. We recognise that there are significant technological developments happening right now, and certainly in terms of the ability for how we can design in hydrogen storage to enable greater autonomy for the locomotive is a hugely exciting opportunity. Likewise, we also recognise that not all of our customers will just want the standard off-the-shelf design. They will have specific duty requirements that will require tweaks to the design, and that is something we can do. We have the modelling and simulation capability to be able to understand and map out what is expected of each individual locomotive, and in turn provide a design that can be tweaked to reflect that, to reflect those very specific requirements. So while there is a standardized core, there is the ability to make that bespoke for the individual customer. And this is a rough overview of the specification. What I would say is that this presentation will be available. We'll PDF it and send it round to everyone, so you don't have to try and note this down quickly. To emphasise, these specifications are the prototype locomotive. So what you might see there, for example, one thing I'd highlight is on the prototype, we only have 20 kilograms of hydrogen storage. That's up to about 50, 60 kilograms in the production design, which gives a shunter locomotive a 24-hour operation duty cycle easily. In addition to that, we're looking at a more powerful fuel cell to go in that, and also a more powerful lead-acid battery as well, which enables greater power output, greater energy storage, greater longevity of duty cycle to meet the operating requirements again. Some indicative KPIs. This is in terms of our ongoing testing. We're seeing fuel, and this is part of, as the market shifts, we see the price of hydrogen coming down, which is fantastic. Please do, colleagues at the production end of the hydrogen value chain, please do keep up the good work. We'd love to see that price of hydrogen come down further, so that will be really helpful. But already we're seeing the fuel cost now for hydrogen undercutting diesel, certainly on the continent, on continental Europe, where the price of diesel is more expensive. And obviously you see emissions completely knocked out, which is a key part of the process for us and for operators. Again, in terms of particulates, completely knocked out, which is fantastic. This is about the health and well-being of both the general public, people in stations, workers in depots and yards, and alongside that is the noise reduction as well. So this is about providing a workhorse that actually is delivering greater, a more pleasant, a healthier working environment for everyone around it. So I'm going to finish off here with a picture from last Thursday. So this is Shunter providing passenger service, albeit a demonstration trip out of Kidderminster. But this is now a proven technology. It's operating, it's offered to market. If anyone on this call would like a shunter retrofit, please do let me know. I offered a 5% discount for any purchase undertaken at the event last Thursday. I'm willing to offer it again today. If anyone wants to take me up on that discount, please do give me a call straight after this. Fantastic. Right, I'm going to stop there and hand back to you, Olivia, to offer for questions, I think.
Great. Thank you very much, Alex. That was a really informative presentation, and you got lots of lovely pictures. I think the glow up of the shunter is
everyone loves pictures of trains,
a great
right?
Before and after, isn't it? And congratulations on the award that you won last week as well. We'll dive straight into the question. I do apologise. I think a couple of people struggled to get in the first 5 to 10 minutes of the presentation. So you might just have to, there might be a few repeat questions if that's okay, Alex. But we've got a question here from Karen Brooks asking why the shunter hydrogen fueled is better than the battery, and why how do you envision trains moving to hydrogen too, and how does it all stack up economically? I know you touched on the economic point. I think that question came in just before you went to those slides, but if you could just kind of summarize again, that'd be great.
No problem. And those are key questions. So taking them in turn, in fact, if they're on the chat, I'll be able to go through them in turn.
They are. Yeah.
Brilliant. So first of all, a key part is that this is not a rival to a battery-only shunter. And indeed, we're very good friends with a company called Positive Traction, who developed the O8E, a battery shunter, and we actually collaborate very closely. We see both of our products as being completely complementary, and where our product is relevant is where operators need to use their shunting locomotives for a long duty cycle or a heavy duty cycle, so large loads, prolonged hours, intensive use, where battery storage simply will not last the duration. We provide much greater onboard energy storage. So where yards quite often operate 24 hours a day, we provide the ability for fast refuel and enable those longer, much longer duty cycles with much shorter breaks to be powered without relying on a diesel engine, as you get your zero emissions. But you don't need to then be reliant on a battery with its much shorter operating life. So it's a horses for courses answer. And indeed, actually, for ours, it has a short supply plug. So if you can run it just off battery alone to optimize your consumption of hydrogen as well. So in that sense, it's again, it's complementary. But we'd say if your duties are sufficient where a battery can do it, take the battery shunter, go to our friends Positive Traction. Great guys, they'll help you out. So this is about complementarity, very much so. In terms of the economics, as we're certainly seeing a lot more interest on mainland Europe, where the price of diesel is higher and the price of hydrogen is slightly lower, and that's creating a much more positive total cost of ownership, a much faster return on investment in that regard. But our shunter requires less mechanical overview maintenance, so it's cheaper to run. The fuel cost is about parity at the moment, depending on the price of hydrogen, price of oil, which of course it would appear that we may see more fluctuations coming in the next few weeks and months again, unfortunately. But overall, the economics are coming towards us now on a weekly basis, which is hugely exciting. With the price of hydrogen coming down, with the price of the hardware coming down, we will see this becoming a more viable option. And certainly, where the policy agenda is very much stacked in terms of requiring decarbonisation, it becomes a matter of being there is no choice but to go with this. The upfront capital cost is a lot less. So a new shunter will cost you $1.5 million, probably plus, for equivalent. This retrofitting will cost you half that, pretty much. Slightly less, perhaps. It depends on exactly what you want, but the capital cost is much lower. The operating cost is about parity to slightly lower as well. So it's a strong alternative now.
Great, thanks, Alex. That was super helpful. We've got a question from Maria Felice, and the question is it the case of a learning on the job, or do your staff attend particular training courses?
Oh, now that's an interesting question. So there's an element here of, we've been operating in a space where we've had to work out along the way. I don't know where Maria's from.
I think she's from the Hydrogen Innovation Initiative.
Oh, of course she is. Yes, I knew I recognized that name. So we aren't no, wrong answer way around. We are still closely affiliated to the University of Birmingham. So we have that sort of the academic side of training. In terms of technical training, we've had to work with our suppliers and with partners to be able to develop this knowledge. And certainly, I mean, if there is relevant training, we'd certainly be interested both in supporting the delivery of it as we look to widen out the application of this technology, as well as to explore opportunities to further develop our own staff as well in that regard. I think the training is a hugely important part of the rollout of new technology like this. And I know that there are a number of people providing hydrogen trainings in a broad sense. Certainly from a railway perspective, we have to put that into a very specific set of contextual requirements in terms of safety on railway infrastructure and interfaces with other parts of the technology around that. And that's something we've had to develop ourselves in partnership with people like Network Rail, with people like train operators, and so on and so forth. So it's an area for, I think, a lot of further discussion. And certainly, Maria, we should catch up on that at some point as well.
I also think the Jude Knight from the Hydrogen Skills Alliance joined in today, so I think should be a helpful person for that discussion as well.
I think it would be. And from a transport, if I could just say, Olivia, sorry, from a transport perspective, we all of us as transport modes have these areas of very specific relevance with certain requirements around what the operating in a safety and conscious environment of a high risk environment. So the skills area is a hugely important one for us all to be cognizant of and to, I think, proactively address.
Yeah. Well, I know the Alliance is always looking to kind of engage within industry stakeholders that have appetite to kind of build the skills provision in the UK. So I think definitely worth, I can facilitate that introduction. But one final question before we wrap up. We've got a question from Charlotte Wright, and the question is as follows. Do you anticipate these being used on more local networks where you could have a central refueling area? Or if you wanted to go further afield, then how many refueling stations would you anticipate? I'll pause there and then I'll do the final question. Just so not
So
well.
That's a great question. So for the shunter locomotives, we see them operating within depots and yards. So very much in terms of a local network, they're workhorses. But there is also, on the other hand, we see a role for hydrogen in much more longer distance services for both passengers and freight, where you won't have electrification wires going up and where you won't have the ability for battery trains to make the distance essentially with the required energy storage on board. So in that sense, for those types of services, there is going to be a need for a greater number of refueling opportunities. How that will play out, I think, is going to be a blend between centralized refueling stations at the core that have their own dedicated hydrogen supply and hydrogen generation and storage versus, I suppose it's hub and spoke, isn't it? The outer elements of the network having a much more bespoke, localized refueling system that could be mobile, portable, or that could be a refueling pump and system, but with tube trailers coming into services as required. So I think there's two answers to that, I'm afraid, dependent on the specific type of services and trains that are being used. And that's all coming. I think that's all in consideration at the moment as we look at how this technology is deployed, and how we can make it operate to the best of its ability and also to the most effective business case ultimately.
Thanks, Alex. There was just a final question as part of that. Just over time, would you expect to go to more permanent local production rather than truck deliveries?
That's a great question. I think my answer would probably be it would go to these central refueling stations would have their own production on board. And I think the demand, when you think a train and that locomotive, we're looking at, say, 30 kilos a day. Several of those locomotives operating in a yard, you're not going to get to the level of demand that's going to justify the significant capital investment in a refueling, a complete whole system refueling station at a depot. But when you think of passenger trains that could require, say, 250 kilos a day, like the Hydroflex train that we built two of a couple of years ago, they've got 277 kilos of storage. If they're using a quarter of a ton a day, and there's several of them operating out of one depot, you quickly start going into tons a day of hydrogen, and that then creates the business case for required volume of hydrogen that would say it's better to have its own production on site to service that demand. So I think that's where we have to identify the size of the fleet being deployed, what its duty cycles are going to be, and then how we optimize the cost of ownership to best effect.
Thanks, Alex. Thanks for answering those questions in such detail. Really, really informative presentation, and definitely a bit of positive news that we've received today amongst some difficult few days over the weekend. So thank you very much, Alex.
Thank you.
For those still on the call, there will be a follow-up email that will share the PDF version of the slides that Alex shared with us today, and the recording will be available online. And I do apologise for those that had difficulties getting in, but we will provide the materials following this call. So thank you very much for joining us today. Alex, if there's anybody wants to reach out directly, if you're happy to share any contact details in the chat, and I can also reiterate that in the follow-up email. but we've got some positive comments coming through. So thank you very much, Alex, for coming to join us on this session of the Hydrogen Bytes.
Thank you. Good to see you. Thanks, everyone.
Goodbye, everyone. Have a lovely afternoon. Goodbye.